Yo, what's up guys? So today I am back with another LeetCode video and I'm going to be solving the palindrome number problem today, and this is going to be the second video of this series. So I'm still on the easy ones, I'm still working my way up, but yeah, with that being said, let's get started. So it says given an integer x, return true if x is a palindrome and false otherwise. And a palindrome is an integer that reads the same forward and backward. So they have a couple of examples here to illustrate their point. And in the first example, we have x is equal to 121. And the output is going to be true because, as you can see, 121 reads the same forward and backward. And then in example 2, we have x is equal to negative 121. And in this case the output is false, and this is because of this little negative sign right here. So this is basically just throwing off the symmetry, right? So since we have one at the beginning but we don't have one at the end, this number does not read the same forward and backward. And then finally we have the third example where x is equal to 10, and as you guys can tell, right, it's not a palindrome. So with that out of the way, I think we can start implementing our solution. And I think the most straightforward approach and like the most intuitive thing to do would be to take x, convert it to a string, iterate through that string backwards, and then save each value to another variable that's going to contain like the backwards value of x. And then after we're done with that, we would just compare x with its backwards value, and if they're equal to each other, then that means the number is a palindrome, and if they're not equal, then that means it is not a palindrome. So let's get started. Alright, so the first step is to take x and convert it to a string. So we're going to save this in a variable called x string, and then we have to use the toString function, so it's x dot toString, and that'll convert it to a string. So now that we have x as a string, we also have to create another variable to store its backwards value as a string. So we're just going to say let backwards equal an empty string for now. And now that we have those two variables set up, the only thing left to do is to iterate through the x string variable backwards. So in order to do this, we're going to have to make use of a for loop. And since we're going to be iterating through the string backwards, we're going to say let I is equal to x string dot length minus 1. And then we're going to do this while I is greater than or equal to 0. And then we're going to decrement I. And then inside of here, we're just going to set backwards, or rather I should say we're going to concatenate the current character or car or char or whatever you call it that we're at. We're going to concatenate that to the backwards string variable. So in order to do that, we have to say x string car at I, and then yeah, I think that's it for that. And then after we're done with that, all we have to do is make a comparison, right? So we just have to return true or false based off a comparison. So we're going to compare the x string to the backwards string, and if those two are equal, then that means that x is a palindrome, and if they're not equal, then that means it's not. So we're going to say return backwards equal to x string if that is true, if they're both equal, then that means it's a palindrome, so we're going to return true. And if they're not equal, then we're going to return false. And I think that covers everything for our logic, so we're just going to run this real quick and see if it passes the test. Alright, and as you can see, it's passed the 3 cases of the test. And yeah, so I think we did a pretty good job. I guess there's one thing that we could do differently, but we could just come up here and you know how negative 121 returns false? So I think this is going to be the case for any negative number, right? Like it's not going to be a palindrome simply because it has a negative sign. So if that's the case, we don't even have to bother executing this logic. We can just go ahead and return false right away. So in order to save us a little bit of time, a little bit of work, or rather I should say the program a little bit of time, we can just go ahead and set like a base case, and we'll just say if x is less than 0, then we can just go ahead and return false right away. And I think this should still work. So yeah, I mean everything's working pretty well. So I think we can just go ahead and submit this solution. And then another follow-up is, could you solve it without converting the integer to a string? So probably, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just, more concentrated on actually solving these the first time around, and then, after I get better and better at this, I'll probably come back and try to implement some better solutions that have a better time complexity or that are a little bit more clever. But for the meantime, this is enough. So we're going to go ahead and submit it. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll be back with more in the future as I solve more problems. So just be on the lookout for those if you really like this type of content. And yeah, I mean, feel free to share your solution in the comments, or if you guys have any helpful tips or pointers, I'd be more than happy to hear them. So once again, thank you for watching this video, and have a good day.